Hey, this is Mr. Elmhorst with a math lesson where we're going to be classifying rational numbers and with all the categories down, including natural numbers. So this is going to be a 6th and 7th grade classifying rational numbers lesson. So rational numbers are going to be defined as numbers that can be written in fraction form or whole number form with negatives, positives, and this includes decimals or partial numbers. So rational numbers for 6th grade is going to be all defined numbers. Any number that can be defined, including repeating decimals, those are going to get first and foremost the rational number classification. Now, out of all these numbers, some numbers, if you remove some of the parts of the numbers, they can get another classification. For example, integers. So rational numbers that are included with positives and negatives and 0, but it does not include the decimal, the partial numbers, anything that is after the whole number place value, tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. If the number does not have a tenths, hundredths, or thousandths decimal place value, then that number is going to be rational and it can get the integers label. Whole numbers, if you remove the negatives, and just if you just remove the negatives and you only look at the positives, well, those numbers will be rational numbers, integers, but then they also get a classification of whole numbers. And the last category down below, natural numbers, is going to be any positive number. Only positive numbers. If you take the 0 out of the whole number classification, then you have the classification of natural numbers. So, for example, the number 3 would get all of these classifications. 3 is a rational number. It is part of the integer group. It is also part of the whole numbers, but then 3 is also a natural number. So it's going to take a look at the chart and number line down below. Okay, sometimes a number line can help us identify and visualize what we are looking at. So the natural numbers are going to be positive numbers not including 0. So right here, going to the right, all of these, example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those are all going to be considered natural numbers. And then the whole numbers are going to start here at 0 and then go all the way over to the right. So we got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and these are going to be the natural numbers. And then integers is going to include 0 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But how integers expands this group and sets of numbers, it's going to include the negatives. So integers is going to go to the right and to the left. So just for example, and then rational numbers is going to include everything on this number line that can be defined, and there's going to be 0, -1, -2, -3, all of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But then it also includes the decimal values and decimal or fraction. So let's use fractions for this. So for example, 1/2 in the middle, 1/2, 1/2. You could even put 3/4. And on the negative side, -1/2, any partial number, -1/4, -3/4. Those are all part of the rational number categories. So the visual diagram, down below, shows the smaller groupings of numbers, and it shows where they belong to a part of the larger group. So let's start with the natural numbers. This category, natural numbers, is part of the larger group. So I did a trapezoid here. I left them open, and then we're just going to close a part of the group down below, focusing on natural. But within this group, natural numbers are part of the larger groups up above. So for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So any positive number is part of the larger group. And then we go to the next larger group, and we're going to include the group down below, and these are whole numbers. The only difference is whole numbers include 0 and then all of the natural numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So any positive number. So all of these numbers are going to be part of the next larger group. Yeah, I'm going to clean this up just a little bit. All right, there we go. That's a little better. The whole numbers is going to include 0 and then the positives from the natural numbers. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we go up to the next group, integers. And integers is going to include all the subsets down below, but now it is going to include 0 or include negatives. So -3, -2, -1, for example. All right, and then up above, rational numbers is going to include decimal, and partial fractions. And fractions, and it's going to include positives, negatives, 0. So for example, up on top, you're going to have 1/2, -3/4, and 5.25. And you can just say like 3.1, it could be negative. So rational numbers is going to include all of the numbers, and then you're going to check and see if you take away some of the attributes of the number, does that rational number also get integer, whole number, or natural number labels? So thank you for joining Mr. Elmhorst for the classification of rational numbers lessons. Open up your journals, glue this into the next open page in your notebooks. Do not skip a page and go front to front or back to back.